Consistent rain has our lakes persistently above their maximum levels. It's led to flooding that seems to have touched all of our communities directly or even indirectly.
Dane County looking for a long-term solution now. Keely Arthur with a closer look at how this problem came to be and what can be done to fix it.
We've been in this location since 1985.
In that time, countless bottles of wine, booze, and beer have stocked these cork and bottle shelves. But lately, proprietor Bob Haymauer is stocking something else. Sandbags.
We want to be cautious because we don't have a big pocketbook to play with.
The East Johnson liquor store, along with so many other businesses and homes on the Isthmus and beyond, put up sandbags in August, bracing for severe flooding after historic rainfall set near record high levels on Lake Mendota.
We were kind of like watching it, being like, what's going to happen? And yeah, it was nerve-wracking.
A month and a half later, flood damage has totaled $3.9 million publicly in the city, according to the mayor's office. An estimated millions more privately, and rough waters might still be ahead.
Driving into today, looking at the lake levels was not necessarily encouraging, so we're definitely keeping an eye on it.
It could be way worse.
How much worse if nothing is done?
We would just see an order of magnitude 10 times the kind of damage we had this year.
Professor Emeritus of Engineering Ken Potter says if we're hit by another major storm in the future or consecutive days of rainfall.
Let's recognize that we missed 3 storms that could have hit us. In fact, the one that hit us a few weeks ago really missed us. It mostly hit Middleton and to the west.
If it feels like this is a more precarious problem than before, you're right. Potter says 2 dominant factors are to blame for increasing lake levels: bigger rain events.
Most people attribute those increases to, at least in part, to climate change. And then the other part is urbanization.
So instead of soaking into the earth, water runs off the concrete into storm sewers and then our lakes. In the 1970s, when Lake Mendota's levels were set by the Department of Natural Resources, urban development in Madison was half of what it is now. And Dane County is now looking into if that should change.
Keep calibrating and fine-tuning our models.
It's John Reimer's job to lead the charge on what to do next.
We were up-down with our flows.
Last week, the assistant director of the Land and Resource Department for the county spoke in front of the board, taking the first step toward a long-term solution.
Not every alternative is a good thing. Depending on what lake you're on, it may negatively impact you, or it positively impacts you, but we want to provide these different options and what are their pros and cons.
One option to solve flooding is improving flow down the Yahara chain. That includes weed cutting, which in one case study increased movement by 2.5 times, dredging, or removing other obstructions.
Several bridges and some other structures that retard the movement of that water. And if that water doesn't move, if you let water go from Mendota to Monona and it can't clear the lakes, you're going to increase flooding of Monona and Wabisa and Kaganza.
Madison Mayor Paul Soglin has also recommended lowering the lake by a foot or 2. The county is exploring formally asking the DNR to do so, but Potter says that's not the answer.
The amount of water coming into the system can't drain very freely. And so even though we talk about starting the lakes lower and so on and so forth, it's very challenging to do that. They fill up very quickly.
In the meantime, there is something you and developers can do right now to reduce flooding, prevent runoff.
Rain gardens, basins that collect water and then infiltrate it, so larger scale basins or roof gardens. So there's a variety of ways of doing that.
Originally, the hill was all the brush like that over there or bare spots.
Tom Melms, whose home is high up on Lake Mendota, is conscious of rainwater rolling off his property and into the lakes. He's come up with his own way to help: boulders and strategically placed plants to soak in water.
Daylilies go into the ground and it's like concrete. I mean, that you're not going to do any kind of runoff.
Earlier this month, the Dane County Board approved the creation of a task force that will look at all the options and make a recommendation next March. So these sandbags might be here a while.
We're anxious to get rid of them.
Despite the eyesore, Haymauer is quick to add he's inspired to see homeowners, business owners, and policymakers alike all seem more connected to the water and concerned for it than ever before.
Everyone who's seen what happened here realizes that this is part of the new normal in Madison, and solutions need to be thought of. And I think I'm grateful that we are a community that is not ignoring it.
Keely Arthur, WISC News 3.
And for an interactive look at our lake levels, you can go to our website, channel3000.com.